Good evening and welcome to session 7 of email marketing. I can see 5 people in the room. There's Aparna Garlut, Divya Bhatia, Pallavi Jaiswal, Sneha Sheth, and Vineet Patel. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you, Pallavi. And my screen is visible. I'm going to go right ahead and get started. Uh, Quickly, I'm going to share the digital Vidya tech support number. I'm sure you know this by now, but just in case you can't hear in between, if you face any lags, please call them and they will help you. This is the number. It's 80810 33033. This is the seventh and second last session on email marketing. And today we are going to talk about database. This is our agenda. We've already gone through deliverability, content. Last week we looked at MailChimp and also strategy case studies. Today we address the final really big piece, that's database. So we'll start by talking about the customer's journey, how to plan this, how to manage a database, and how these two tie in together to make your email marketing strategy. Now, we know by now that email marketing is not just about getting a large number of email addresses and bulk mailing them, right? Because email marketing is not the same thing as bulk mailing. Understanding what the customer wants and mailing them at the right time, addressing their needs, comprises the gist of email marketing. And that means we need to keep some things in mind. It's none of these things. It's not mass mailing, it's not bulk mailing, it's not cold calling, which means you don't start off a conversation by just throwing out your product messages and saying, please buy me, please buy me. We understand that. We've seen a lot of different kinds of emails that take your customer from just interested towards an actual transaction. All this is just recap. You will remember this definition I showed you in the first session. I told you I'll bring it back in the last week as well. So here it is. Email marketing is the use of email communication to establish a conversation, build loyalty, and nurture engaged readers into prospects. We understand this a lot better now, right? We now know that an acquisition email starts a conversation, a response email takes a conversation forward by responding to something that the customer has said or done, and a reminder email keeps the conversation alive, revives dead conversations. We also saw examples of things like referral programs and what happens when another customer refers this customer. How do you make sure that people are constantly interested and engaged? We also looked at how to analyze the different metrics, the open rate, click rate, delivery rate, bounce rate, all of these. And MailChimp gives you a wealth of all of this. Where does a customer actually click? Who are your most responsive customers? Now, how can you use all of this to make your relationship with the customer better? Keep this definition in mind at all points of time. Lead nurturing is developing relationships with customers at every stage in the sales funnel by listening to their needs and providing them with the information that they need. Now, all of this we've been saying, and this is great, but here's the thing. We know this, every human being has their own requirements, every human being has their own individual preferences. So, how do you manage the 20,000, 10,000 people in your database? How do you manage each of their needs and manage to address them in a such a way that each one feels special and as if this product is for them, your interaction with them is for them personally? I'm going to take you through this schematic, which is the journey that the customer makes through the brand's conversation. This is there in your notes as well. This is a broad framework of how marketing communication works, especially on digital with customers. This represents your customers. This is you, the brand. It starts off with the customers not being in your market, which means that they don't know of your existence. They don't know anything about you. At this juncture, if you just start hitting them with communication saying, this is my product, these are my discounts, these are my offers, you know now that's not going to work very well. Most of them will, well, for a start, many of them will just not get your mail because the mail will bounce. You don't have the permission to contact them. Those who get it will not respond well. They'll just mark you as spam, right? So, what is needed at this juncture on digital? You need to catch their attention and you need to introduce yourself in a way that they want to know more about you. Now, you don't know that much about them at this stage. What you need to do is try and understand who are the potentials and generate some demand among them. Keep permission marketing in mind at all points of time. These are some of the digital technologies that can help you do this step of the communication really well. Industrial directories help you get slotted in along with your industry references. So, if a potential customer has a specific query from your industry or comes looking for you, you are to be found over there. Public relations is a great way to start and make a first impression. Display advertising, these are the ads that you see on websites. These are again a good way to catch attention in a certain semi targeted manner. Semi targeted because you can target display ads by geography, by timing, and to some extent based on what your user preferences are going to be. Now, at this juncture, you still don't know at an individual level, but you can target your ads to people who are looking for information about cars, people who are searching for information about baby products. Depending on which pages they go to, your ad can show on those pages, and that in that manner, you're narrowing down your audience focus there. All of these are ways to catch your readers' attention, and hopefully, the interested among them will want to seek a further relationship with you. Social media is also a great way to start a conversation. Now, among these, everyone who sees your display ad, everyone who has seen your PR efforts, everyone who has seen your Facebook page, your social media, other properties, some of them are going to want to know more. And what do most people with an internet connection do when they want to find out something more about anything, any topic in the world? What do most of us do? We do a Google search, right? We go searching for more information using Google, which means that this audience, some of them have moved on to this stage, which is needing awareness and research, looking for more information, more detailed information. And your job at this stage is to make sure that you're giving them the answers to the questions, giving them that information that they are looking for. Which is why when they do a Google search, you need to make sure that you're appearing in the answers right away. So, search engine optimizing your properties is going to make sure that you show up in the relevant search strings. Pay per click is part of display advertising, which means you are paying only for the people who clicked on the ad and not just for people who saw the ad. Now, why is this interesting? Because who is going to click on a display ad? Only someone who is interested in whatever they see in the ad. And the display ad is also going to take them to a certain landing page. This means you've got a more focused audience base who are showing some kind of interest in you. Any other kind of social media activities. So, anyone who follows you, anyone who subscribes to you, anyone who retweets you or likes you on Facebook, leaves a comment, all of these are human beings who are showing that they want a little more information. They are interested and open to receiving further communication from you. And all of these are a chance for you to re engage with them and get permission from them to connect on a more meaningful manner. That means get hold of their email address, get hold of further information, ask them to fill in a form, get their permission to send them emails. And everyone who's willing to take that further, you know now, they are seriously considering you. And at this point of time, they're going to be comparing you to what are the other offerings in the market. So you see what's happening. You're leading the customer step by step into a deeper relationship with you. But that also means at every stage, you are picking up more information about them as well. By the time a person comes to this stage, you know a lot more about them than when they were at this stage, right? Because they have come looking for certain kinds of information, and you already know what kind of information, because Google Analytics, for example, will tell you what kind of search strings led to your company website. If they filled in a form you've given them, then you have more information about them as well. And you have their permission, which means it's time for you to start your email marketing at this stage. This is why email marketing is not used for cold calling. These are cold calling. Email marketing is not the best digital technology to use for cold calling. But once you've done your cold calling and you've established who are the people who want to engage with you and had their permission, you can then start email marketing. You can start lead nurturing as well, because by now they will have more specific questions. Can this product work with what I already have? I have these considerations. Do you have any special offers? Do you have any products specially for this group of people? All of those allow you to engage in more focused conversations, which is what lead nurturing is. Content marketing comes in here. Content marketing means that you're sending specialized content to people with those specific needs. You can create specialized content if you understand your users' needs better. And since you've had a chance to collect this information from them, you can start putting out white papers, infographics, videos, FAQs. All of those are part of content marketing. The next step at this stage is, if you've done your job well enough, they're going to say, yes, I'm willing to buy. And at this stage, there's still going to be some information requirements they will have, such as, can I pay by credit card? Do you do home delivery? What about after sales service? What about customer care? Is there a helpline I can contact? Can I get a demonstration? Can I pay by and continue helping in this? Remember transaction emails? Transaction emails are all the emails that you share at this juncture. Content marketing can continue helping here. Remarketing is something that comes in at this juncture. Remarketing helps you tie in the other digital technologies along with email. What is remarketing? Remarketing basically means that you're getting information about your customer through one digital platform and you're using it to reach them on other digital platforms. For example, let's say that you visited Amazon and you saw a pair of shoes that you really liked. And then you decided to close Amazon and come to this webinar. Once this webinar gets over, you're going to check in on your Facebook profile. And when you click on Facebook, when you open Facebook, in the right hand side where the ads run, you'll see an ad for Amazon. And in that ad, you'll see that same pair of shoes that you were looking at before you came to the webinar. You might decide to just post a Facebook status update and leave, and then go and visit some other website. And when you're on the other website, maybe you go to Wikipedia. At the top, you'll see an ad running. Well, maybe not Wikipedia. Wikipedia doesn't run ads, but some other website. Maybe you go to BuzzFeed.com and you see an ad running there, and that ad is for Amazon. And that ad again has that same pair of shoes. So this advertisement is chasing you from place to place on the internet. This is done using remarketing. How does remarketing work? Because Amazon is paying for those ads to appear on Facebook, or it's paying Google to have those ads appear on those websites. Now, Amazon knows that you have been interested in this pair of shoes. So, they're going to use that information and say, Facebook, when this person logs into Facebook, this ad spot that I'm buying, I want you to show him this pair of shoes. When that person logs into Facebook, I want you to show her this book that she was interested in. It's possible to target your ads at that level. Now, I won't get into the how and why of that because that is part of your Facebook advertising and your Google advertising, but just be rest assured that this is possible. How can it tie in back to email marketing? If you've ever used a TripAdvisor or Clear Trip or any of those travel sites, you might find that you're searching for, you're trying to build a trip to, let's say, Goa. And while you're doing that, you get an email with an advertisement for special packages in Goa by a hotel there. How does that happen? Make My Trip or Clear Trip or whichever site you're using has information that you are specifically interested in Goa. And that is shared with their clients who are these hotels in Goa. And you have already shared your email address with Make My Trip and given them permission to mail you marketing information, which is why their clients are able to mail you specific information at that point of time regarding Goa, which is information that you're looking at. This is all part of remarketing. And remarketing can only happen when you have that kind of information. But this is there to show you that digital is should be ideally one seamless journey. It's not email marketing separately and social media marketing separately and media buys separately. All of these can tie in together because they're all various aspects of the same broad toolkit that's available to you as the marketer. Now, what happens at this juncture? People either decide they're going to buy or they don't buy and they go and buy something else. Are you going to give up on them at this stage? It's taken a lot of effort to come up to this stage, right? So, you keep the conversation going, which is what the beyond is. It would be a sheer waste to just discard this person after they have completed this process. If they bought you, does that mean you don't care about them anymore? Again, waste of time, right? It takes, I read a statistic somewhere that said that it takes 6 times the amount of effort to bring in a new customer than it does to upgrade an existing customer. So an existing customer, it's possible to upsell to them, it's possible to cross sell to them, but again, you don't start immediately bombarding them with, here are my other products, here are other things you can do. You need to continue that relationship with them, which is a good reason for content marketing, customer relationships, all of this, and marketing automation, which we've looked at last week, as well as remarketing. Are we completely clear on this cycle and this journey? The schematic is there in your notes. Do go through it when you're planning your customer strategy. Are we clear on this? Shall I go ahead? Are we clear on this? Shall I go ahead? Now, all this means it's not just about opting in people and sending them emails. I hope that's sufficiently clear to everyone by now, right? Email marketing is not just I get people's email addresses, I get their permission, and then I just keep bombarding. You may get someone's permission, but after that, if you send them any, even one single message that's not relevant to them, what are they going to do? They are going to unsubscribe, unfollow, mark you as spam, block you, right? You need to make sure every single email that goes to them is of interest and value to them. So, think about the journey that the customer is going to make through your communication. Plan your customer's journey even before you start it. Building your strategy comes down to planning beforehand. Who are you reaching out to? Who are these people that you want to send your communication to? When you start off, you plan out something called target audience. That's a jargon that every marketer likes throwing around, right? What exactly is this target audience? Who are these people? Are we familiar with the term target audience? Do you know who your target audience is? Can you define your target audience for whatever your product or services in one sentence? Let's hear some examples. Who is your target audience for your. Okay, so that's not target audience. How targeted is that? How big is a large corporate? Every business in the world can be considered a corporate in some manner. If they are registered as a company, then they are corporate. How large is large? Age group and hobby is what? Anybody over 18 is a very, very large sample. That's not targeted then. That's everybody. The word target means that you're making it specific, right? Yes or no? So this is not okay. 18 to 25 enjoy football. That's getting a little closer to it. So let's keep this in mind. It's super important for you to understand who exactly is your customer. You cannot go with something general like large businesses or anyone who's willing to buy. Who are these people? You need to know in order to market to them better. At what stage of the cycle are they in? The better you know them, the better you will understand what stage they are in, right? Do they know of your existence? Are they old customers? Are they somewhat familiar with you? Remember another schematic I showed you last week? Remember the Vodafone example versus the retainer example, dental retainer? You need to have that level of understanding about your customer if you want to send them focused communication. That's a definition of target audience. But do you know who that is, Aparna? So, who is that group of people? Who are they? That is something, there's no magic formula for that, right? You have to come up with who that group of people is. You have to find out. Is that making sense? Who is this mysterious group of people that you want to reach out to? It starts by asking yourself who is likely to be interested in my product. You can't get lazy and say anyone who wants to buy my product. Can you see why I'm saying that's lazy? Because it doesn't mean anything. You need to take the time and effort to understand who are those people who are interested, because that is the start of marketing. That is your job as a marketer, to understand who those people are who are interested in buying, who you can reach out to. That will tell you what stage they are in. If you know what stage they are in, then you know how often to reach out to them. Last week we talked about two examples, Vodafone versus the dental retainer. Does everyone remember that? Is Vivek the only one? Yeah, you remember that? And remember how each group has to be targeted differently? The frequency of communication, the method of communication, right? Because how they respond to it. This is what you need to think about for your specific products. It'll also tell you what to say to them. What is it that you need them to do next? What is the next step in their journey? What are your alternate plans? Always keep in mind every plan should have buffers, should have alternate methods, and you have to keep revising your strategy constantly. A database is a collection of all the information that you're collecting about your audience. Not just your customers, but your entire audience. Remember, the people who receive your messaging are your audience. Not all of them will go on to become your customers. A customer is someone who pays for your product. If you put up an ad on TV, does every single person who sees the ad buy your product? Does everyone who see an ad become a customer? So that means your customer base is a subset of your audience, right? And you need to understand your audience in order to send them messaging that will appeal to them, and some of them will get converted to customers. But that audience also is not a mass audience. This is not a TV ad that you're doing. A TV ad runs to a mass audience. Anyone who happens to be in the room when the ad plays is part of the audience. Email is very targeted and specific. Every piece of information that you have about your audience can help you make your communication that much better. A database is nothing but a structured form of structured form of organizing all that information. Databases are comprised of two things. They're comprised of fields. So every piece of information you collect about your audience becomes a field. Last week, I had all of you fill in a form so you could get added to my MailChimp database. You remember that? In the fifth session, I did a demonstration of MailChimp. There were several questions on the form that you had to complete, right? Each of those questions went on to become a field in the database. And each of you became a record in the database. Does everyone remember that? So, a database is nothing but a collection of fields and records. Now, what happens if I manage to collect one record and 20,000 fields? Is that a good database? Why? Because that means I know everything there is to be known about just one person, right? Are you all with me? If it's only one record, it's only one person, right? Is our every person becomes one record. On the other hand, if I collect only, let's say I only collect the date of birth of 30,000 people, is that a good database? That's one record and 30,000 records. One field and 30,000 records. So a good database needs to have several fields and several records, right? Can you see how a list of email addresses is not a good database? What's a list of email addresses? A list is nothing but one single field and lots of records, right? I can't tell if you're following what I'm saying. Should I slow down? Please, you need to respond when I ask you a question. When I ask a question, you need to respond then. I can't tell, right? Like you can't see me, I can't see you either. So, a database is a picture. Think of it as a picture that you have of your potential customer, your audience. If I show you a picture that is a line drawing versus a picture that's a high resolution color photograph, which one gives you a clearer image of the person? The photograph, right? Because the photograph has more detail than a line drawing. Can you see this is a metaphor I'm giving you? So, a database that is rich in information can help you build much better communication that will result in much better, well, results for you. So, let's get into planning that database. And by planning, I mean you need to think about what kind of information do you need about your customer. You know that you want a lot of information, but what kind of information? You want to have a lot of fields. So, what are these fields going to be? What data do you already have about your customer? By the time you get to email marketing, you saw in that big schematic, that funnel that I showed you, you already have some information about your customer, right? Yes or no? So, let's put down what are the fields you already have. You will have their full name, right? You'll have their email address. You may have their residential address. And maybe you have taken their, maybe these are the only three things you have about them. What can you interpret from this? Is there anything you can interpret from this? Let's say you also have got their date of birth. So first of all, is there anything you can interpret from full name? I'm going to mark these in green because this is information you already have. In yellow, I'm going to put any information that you can interpret from this. Does everyone understand what I mean by interpret? People, if you don't understand, you need to ask me or answer my question. If you don't know, say don't know. Okay? So maybe you might be able to figure out gender from it. Maybe. And that's a maybe because sometimes people, how can you tell people's age from their name, Divya? My question was from full name, can you? Okay, from date of birth. Based on date of birth which you have, you can calculate age. From residential address, is there anything you can calculate or interpret? So location, right? Location, zone. Now I am going to take gender out of this because gender is not an interpretation. Gender won't be, you can't be absolutely sure, right? I know a man called Kirti, I know a woman called Kirti. I know a man called Harpreet, I also know a woman called Harpreet. So this one you can't be absolutely sure. And keep in mind, a database contains facts. It doesn't contain probably, ho sakta hai, right? So I'm going to delete this. The only hard facts you have are these. These are hard facts, right? If you have the date of birth, you know for a fact what the age is. If you have the residential address, you know for a fact what the location is. So these are things you have. What do you need in order to move on to the next step? What data do you not have which you will want to collect to make your communication even better? Phone number, okay. What do you mean by contact details, Aparna? You already have their residential address, you already have their email address. What are the contact details? So you need to be very specific when it comes to a database, right? Okay. So phone number, mobile number, okay. Will mobile number help you communicate with them better? I'm going to put these in blue. This is what you do not have. Interest area, such as what? Do you mean hobbies? Do you mean professional interests? So you need to be specific when it comes to this. What do you mean by interest? I know all of you are interested in digital marketing, that's why you're in this program. But some of you are also interested in movies. That's a personal interest. Some of you are interested in specific human beings. That's a relationship related interest, right? What does interest area mean? Okay, guys, we've got to start getting more specific about this. What else do you need in order to communicate well with them? Is this enough information for you to start sending them great emails? Okay, working or non working is excellent. Excellent. So, professional status. Does that capture it, Sneha? So, why don't you think of your specific product or service, Vivek? Your company's product or service? What information will you require? Guys, you're not participating. Shall I just go back to reading the slides out? That would come under professional status, right, Vivek? Professional background. I'm going to change this to background. Working, not working, which company, so on and so forth. Employment, qualification. Okay, so these are things that you do not have. Very good. And these are things that will help you. So you need to collect this information. What new data can you get? Is it possible for you to get this information from the next step? How can you get hold of this information? You can ask them to fill in further forms, but people are not always willing to fill in forms. We don't like filling forms, right? How many forms have you filled in the past year? In 2017, since 2017 began, how many forms do you remember filling? Not a lot, right? But are there other ways by which you can get this information? Three to five. Okay, Vineet, but how many brands do you think you've used since 2017? I will put a guess and say about 300. Everything that you use around you is a brand, right? Your clothing, the car that you drive, the services that you use, the websites that you use, the banks that you use, the restaurants you go to, the movie theaters you go to, every single one of them is a brand. You haven't filled in forms for all of them, right? Are there other ways to get hold of this? If you have access to people's Facebook profiles, can you get any of this information? If you know people's Facebook profiles, which of these? What can you get out of people's Facebook profiles? Age you already have from their date of birth. We are looking for the blue, right? Facebook doesn't give you professional details. Facebook doesn't require you to fill in professional details. Where can you get professional details from? LinkedIn, right? So you might want to know their LinkedIn profiles. Have you seen websites that tell you you can sign in with Facebook or LinkedIn? Apps that let you link to Facebook or LinkedIn? Can you see now what they're doing? They're giving you a certain convenience, but also they're accessing your information when you do that. Instead of getting you to fill in a form, when you sign in using your LinkedIn or your Facebook profile, they are getting access to the information you have put up on Facebook or LinkedIn, right? It allows them to populate this in their database. Can you see that? Is that clear? These are some other sources of information. If you have a sales team, if you have any kind of feedback mechanism happening, if you have details on how people are consuming your newsletters or any kind of YouTube channel you're running, if you have white papers that you put up, how many downloads are happening, who are these people, get people to sign up for downloads rather than just being able to download directly. This is why if you try to download an e-paper, most of the time, an e-book, an e-paper, you can't download it directly. They'll ask you to sign in with your Facebook or Google or LinkedIn, or they'll ask you to give your email address. Have you seen those? Class, can you participate? Because I can't really tell whether you're understanding what I'm saying or not. Okay, I'm just going to run through and just go ahead and read out the slides because if I keep stopping and asking and waiting for you to respond, we'll be here and we won't finish the slides. Okay, shall I do that? I'll just go ahead and keep reading out the slides. No, I'm afraid we can't keep stopping in between, Vivek, because I've got 45 minutes to take you through a lot of things. If you're not going to be participating along with me, then I really can't do that, right? What would you prefer? That I keep stopping and waiting, waiting, waiting. That means I'll have to anyway close at 9:30. Actually, your call. What do you want me to do? I can either Just spend all the time on three or four slides and keep waiting for you to answer, or I can go through all the slides. What would you prefer? But the class is not participating, Vivek. I'm telling you, I can do only one of these two things. Okay, so everyone is okay with that. Should I just go through with only the slides that it's possible for us to do till 9:30? I'll wait. I don't mind waiting. I can slow this down. But then I'll have to close at 9:30. Whatever slide we are on, I'll close it at that. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, see guys, this is what I'm talking about. I'm not seeing any response. I can't tell. So I'm just going to go ahead and read, okay? I really can't tell. You're not giving me anything to go by. Okay, so populating a database, I showed you three methods last week. You can import an existing database. You can get people to sign up and fill in their own details. You can update based on other channels that you get information from, like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google. You can add new channels. All of these are ways by which you can populate all these details in the database. Keep in mind permission marketing, which is always going to be about speak to people about what they are interested in. Keep the customer's value at the forefront rather than what the brand wants. Make sure that your database is completely clean. Remember that information has a certain life cycle. That means that if you've collected people's age, this is a field that will get outdated within a year's time. If you've collected people's mobile numbers, that may change. Address changes, residential address changes, email address changes. People even change their full name. A lot of people change their name after they get married. Sometimes people change their name after they move to a different country. They change the spelling sometimes. Sometimes people change their names because of numerology, various different reasons, right? Especially when it comes to email marketing, email address is one of the most crucial pieces of information. Make sure that information in your database is completely clean and valid at all points of time. Confirm people who are active. Now that you've seen how MailChimp works, you know that you can track at an individual user level whether a person is opening your emails or not. If the last 10 emails that you sent have not been opened by a person, maybe they are not opening your emails at all. Maybe they've given you an address that they don't check that frequently. And if that is the case, then your communication is not reaching them, and at some point of time, your emails may start bouncing, which in turn will impact your deliverability. Remind anyone who's being inactive. Try and contact them in other ways. Try and tell them that, okay, if you don't respond, then I'm going to deactivate this because it's not going to work. I know a company that actually did this. They sent an email saying, we noticed that you have not been opening our last 10 emails. We would not want to continue spamming you. So if you do not respond to this email, we will cease to mail you. Anytime you want to, you can subscribe to us again over here. This helps the marketer as well because this is part of permission marketing. What's the point in bombarding information at someone who is not responding? Separate the unresponsive and try and contact them in other ways. This doesn't mean delete those people. If you have their mobile number, try calling them. If you've ever received a call from a bank or even an e commerce site asking to confirm your email address, or even a telecom service provider, Vodafone seems to do this a lot. Sometimes banks do this. What are they doing? They're really asking you, when they ask you, is there an alternate address, alternate number? They're saying, is there any other way we can reach you? Because we don't seem to be able to get our marketing communication across to you by the method you have given us. Make sure you're correcting errors. What do you do if someone misspells or mispronounces your name? Do you feel very good about it? If a call center calls you and they've mispronounced your name, or if a marketer mails you and they've misspelled your name. You don't feel good about it, right? Worst, if the email address is misspelled, what's going to happen? Exactly, mail will bounce, right? So, as marketer, you need to make sure this information is absolutely correct. Information, remember, information is like currency on the internet. The more you have, the richer you are. But that information has to be valid. You're not a rich person if you have lots of monopoly money, right? You know the game Monopoly, where you play with fake money? That doesn't make you rich. Your currency needs to be valid currency. You're not rich if you have a lot of old 1000 rupee notes before the demonetization, because that currency is not valid anymore. Similarly, any information that is not valid or that's incorrect means it's not useful to you. So you need to make sure your information is constantly up to date in your database. Merge any repetitions that are there. Every time you when you want to add a contact to your smartphone, what happens? It asks you whether you want to create a new entry or you want to update an existing entry, right? Because this number is a record that's being added to your database. Especially if you're using an Android phone, it's getting added to your Google database. You may even find this when you're typing in the person's name into your Android phone, it already prompts you if that person's name is already there in your database, maybe because you mailed them in the past. Has anyone seen that happen? Android phone users? Can you see how that's also a database? When you're using a Google account, every person you mail, their email address gets added to your Google database. If you're also using an Android phone, every phone number that you add gets added back to that database. And if that person's email address is already there, this database is making it convenient for you to map the two together. If you add the Facebook app or the LinkedIn app to your phones, then your Android phone will even ask you whether you want to update that as well. So that means you have a database already that's very rich. It's collecting information for you from all these sources. Let's look at how you can use this database in a strategic manner now. Databases are nothing but an organized system of knowledge about your customers, right? How can you use this systematically? I'm going to give you a video to watch. Watch this video, and when you come back, we'll talk about something called segmentation. Segmentation is a marketing method used by marketers all over the world. We'll talk about specifically how you can use this in email marketing. Please watch the video, come back and let me know when you're done. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. Izahar, we'll have to take this up in the Q&A section, okay? All right. Now you've seen the video. That level of care and attention is needed when you send out your emails. How can you bring in that level of detail to every email you send out? Especially your database may be 50,000 people. Can you give it that kind of attention for those individual 50,000 different individuals? Every single one of them is as important to you as the recipient of that email to the person in the video, right? Remember this schematic I showed you last week? Most aware versus unaware. Now, realistically, in your audience, you may have some people who are at this stage and some who are at this stage, some who are at this stage. You can't send them all the same kind of communication, right? I hope you're all back. So you can't send everyone in your database the same communication, right? Because people are at different levels of understanding and knowledge. Take a product like, say, a mobile phone, a smartphone. Who all use the smartphone? Your mother uses a smartphone. Your dhobi uses a smartphone. You use a smartphone. Each of you has very different levels of knowledge and understanding about this industry, right? So, communication by this company needs to be very different for different kinds of people. This is where segmentation can come in. Segmentation means that you segment or you divide your audience into smaller groups, and each group you target them in a different manner. Biopersona is a technique used by marketers that can help you manage your communication to each segment better. Biopersona is a thought tool, thinking tool. A biopersona is a semi fictional representation of your ideal customer. So, how does this work? Your perfect customer may be different kinds of people. There may be three or four different kinds of people. That's why people find it difficult when you say target audience. There are so many different kinds of people who are perfect for your product, right? Each of them can be turned into a different buyer persona, and each buyer persona represents a segment of your audience, because your audience is actually comprised of lots of different kinds of people, and each kind you depict using a buyer persona. Did that make sense? And each one becomes a target audience group. You can have multiple target audience groups. It might be easier to think of them as multiple segments. Each segment will need its own plan of how the communication works. Go back to what I said about mobile phones. There are lots of different kinds of communication, or even think about something like a Vodafone or an Airtel. They have very different kinds of communication because they have to cater to very different kinds of audiences, right? It's the same product, the same brands, but some communication talks about how it's value proposition. Some of it talks about how it's great to keep in touch with your friends. Why is that happening? That's because there are different segments in their audience groups, different segments that they cater to in different ways. Biopersona can help you this way, because then what you're doing is think about who is your ideal, your perfect customer. And again, don't get lazy here and say anyone who wants to buy my product. Be very, very specific. A biopersona, that's why it says semi fictional. A biopersona is a fictitious character. A biopersona is an actual person, except this person is a fictitious person, is an imaginary person, single person, an individual, based on what you already know from your industry, based on currently known facts. So you already know that people in this age bracket, this gender, this area with this particular behavior are interested. And in addition, a guesstimate that you make about your customer. A guesstimate is an estimated guess. That means it's not a blind guess. It's based on some facts that you have about your customers already. Based on that, you come up with an imaginary person who represents your perfect customer. This imaginary person is called a buyer persona, and this buyer persona represents an entire segment in your database of your audience. Did you understand that? Why we do this? Because it makes it easier for you to create communication if you're creating that communication keeping a specific person in mind. Whether it's writing a book or whether it's writing an email, you'll find it a lot easier if you keep a person in mind when you're writing this or creating this. Now, this person doesn't have to be an actual person, this person is an imaginary person, but they have to be one person. And that one person represents an entire segment in your database. What are the kind of things that you need to do in order to create this imaginary person? Demographic information is just the start of it. What is demographic information? Age, gender, location, income, educational background. All of these are part of demographic information. But it doesn't stop there. What more can you find out about a person? Personality type, extroverts, introverts, party goers, homeowners, bossy people, quiet people, meek people, people who like solitude, people who have a few friends, people who are very influential, people who prefer to follow, people who are diplomatic, people who are very direct. All of this helps you understand how to communicate with them better, right? For a mobile phone, one group of people, who do you think is a better audience? Who do you think is a more perfect audience? Someone who likes to talk or someone who prefers not to talk? So, an introvert or an extrovert? Now, that said, you're only thinking about the talk time feature of a mobile phone. But today's mobile phones are also web browsers. They are also app holders. They are also messaging systems. And a lot of introverted people are very, very active on these, right? Which means that two different kinds of communication. Preferred media. Do they like watching films? Do they prefer reading? Are they app users? What are their life goals and challenges? The more you understand about the person, the better you can figure out how to approach them, right? Not just how it relates to your product, but who are they as people? What is their big dream in life? Do they want to travel the world? Do they want to settle down with a family? Do they really want to succeed in their career? Do they just want to be rich, whichever way? Is it important? Is fame very important to them, or is money more important to them? What are their hurdles in using your product? Three people are there, all three of them are very interested in your product. But one of them is a 65-year-old lady who has arthritis, so she cannot move her fingers on the mobile phone as easily. One of them is a 13-year-old student who is dependent on his parents to buy the phone. Can you see how the communication to these two people has to be very different? Because the hurdles that each of them is facing is very different, right? Yes or no? Communication preferences. I prefer to receive my communication at 7 in the morning. I'm not so much on Facebook. I love WhatsApp. I really don't like emails. I don't check Facebook that often. I prefer phone calls. I really like text messaging. We keep hearing these things about people around us, right? And in different ways, we are already tailoring these to the people around us. For example, I have a friend who never answers her phone call because she's always busy in some event, something or the other. But she responds to WhatsApp messages like this. On the other hand, my mother doesn't check WhatsApp, but she always returns my call if I call. So I already know that if I want to contact my friend, I should WhatsApp her. And if I want to contact my mother, I should call her. We all do this, right, with the world around us. With people who matter to us, we already know this. Wouldn't it help us a lot more if we knew this about our customers as well? So let's take a quick check, okay? I'm giving you a buyer persona. This is a visual buyer persona. This represents one section, one segment in my audience group. And this represents picture number two, represents a very different segment in my audience. Two different segments. Can you see that? Just take 10 seconds and look at the differences you can see in these two. Each one represents a very different segment. Two different segments in my database. Yeah? You're with me so far? Okay. Now, I have two different communications for the same product. Okay? Message one says, uh, this product will make you look really smart and no, really cool in front of your friends. Oops, sorry, I sent that as a private message. I'm sharing that in the chat window. So here's one communication that I have. Which segment should I send it to? The one on the left or the one on the right? Who do you think this suits better? Divya says left. Why the one on the left? Vivek says right. Why the one on the right? Okay, I'm not going to take the answer of both. There is one fundamental rule of marketing, Sneha, which is you can't be everything to everybody. That's the exact opposite of segmentation and positioning, right? If you just say everything to everyone, then you're not doing segments anymore. Okay, so Divya is saying I would send it to the one on the left because women are more bothered about friends' opinions. Okay, that's a theory. Fair enough. Why did Vivek say right? What is the reasoning for thinking the message would work well with the segment on the right? So Divya is going by gender and saying that I think this segment is gender based segmentation, and I think women tend to be more receptive to. They want, it's important for them how they are seen by their friends. So this product would work well with this segment. Vivek, what was your reasoning when you thought the one on the right? Okay, so Vivek had a similar reasoning except for the one on the right saying the young boy looks, he looks like it. He looks like it would matter to him that he look cool in front of his friends. Okay, fair enough. Here's the other message for the same product. And this is, this product will help you save time and be more efficient. Which segment would this work well on and why? Again, please don't say both because that's not an answer I'll accept. Vineet says right. Okay, so why do you think the one on the right will work well with that? And Vivek, why the one on the left? Nurse is juggling work and home, so needs to save time. So this product will help you save time. She will probably be very this time conscious. Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. Does anybody think the message will work for the one on the right? So there are different ways in which you can interpret this. But see what you're doing? You're building a certain story. It's easier for you to build a story if you have a specific character in mind, right? Rather than if you were told this is a large, this segment may be, this visual representation may be representing 25,000 people. It's going to be a lot harder for you to think about which message will work for 25,000 of them. But this is a representation which represents most of those 25,000 people. Similarly, this one might be representing, say, 30,000 people. Are we understanding biopersona a little better? Good. So let's take this a step further. What I've shown you is just a very, very basic biopersona. It's only a visual persona. Let's say I add some word bubbles to it as well. Here's another. These are 4 biopersonae. And keep in mind, these are not pictures of the actual customers. They're just models being used for representational purposes. We all understand that, right? I'm giving you certain word bubbles along with their designations as well. The top left is Mario, a studio consultant. It says manager, self reliant, advanced, savvy, smart, problem solver, marketer, expert, creative. Top right is Eliza, who's a PR manager. Advanced, smart, aspires, office, inefficient, busy, educated. Bottom right is Andre, the developer. Techie, aggregator, savvy, educated, mobile, startup, profiteer, and self serving. Bottom left is Ada, the receptionist. Stationary, self reliant, smart, busy, front desk, self serving, greeting, resourceful, and diligent. Does this tell you a little more about each person and each segment? Now, if I had a communication that spoke about how this product used the most cutting edge technology, which segment do you think would respond best to it? The techie, right? The one at the bottom right. Okay, let's take a different tack. So we know already that biopersona can help you segment the content of your message. Let's think about the timing in which I send the email. Which segment should I send this email to? Or let's take it the other way. At what time do you think, what time of the day do you think this segment would be very responsive to my email? This is Ada, the receptionist. What would be the best time to send my email? So this segment sees it right at the top of their mail and opens it. What is evening? Evening starts at 4 o'clock and goes right up to 8 o'clock, right? Office hours is 9:30 till 9 o'clock till 6 o'clock. Don't be general, guys. This is all about being very specific. What time do you think this segment will be? So Vivek says 6 p.m. Okay, maybe the logic is that they would check their email just before they leave for the day, right? I would actually say maybe at 9:05 in the morning. So they check their email early in the morning before the crowd starts coming in. This is a receptionist, so she can't be checking her computer. She has to be constantly greeting everyone who comes in, right? It's a certain reasoning. How about the techie developer? What do you think? What time do you think would be the best time to mail him? Late night, possible, yeah? Because that looks like someone who checks their notifications is right on top of things, right? Mobile also. It also says mobile over here. Now let's take a different tack. Let's say that you're going to send the same kind of communication, the same message to this segment as well as this segment. They're both represented by very feminine qualities. But this one is very smart. It says smart, front desk, self serving, and diligent. That means most likely very organized. Whereas Eliza, the PR manager, is inefficient and busy. Which of these two will you need to send a lot more reminder emails to, do you think? Eliza, right? Because she may not be very regular in checking or she may forget. Can you see how the buyer persona is helping you build individual journeys for each segment? Each buyer persona represents a segment, and each segment has to be very different from the other. You might send the same communication to two segments, but you might send it at different times. You might word it differently for the two segments. You might send it at different points of time. Something that is a transaction email for this segment might be a reminder email for Mario, right? Think about professional backgrounds. This can be a very, very important aspect of buyer personae. If I tell you that your audience is 25-year-old men working in metro cities, you have a certain image. But now, if I tell you, one of them is Ramachandran Iyer, these are buyer personae, okay? Ramachandran Iyer works as a marketing manager at Facebook, and Vikram Shah works as a cashier in mm, Punjab National Bank. Both of them are 25 years old. Both of them work in metros. But do you see them differently? Because I've given you information beyond the demographic, right? I've not just given you the age, gender, and location. I've given you their names, and I've given you their employers' names, and I've given you their designations, right? World of difference between these two, right? Yes or no? Guys, please. Yeah? Here's a detailed buyer persona. I'm going to read it out to you. It's called Socially Competitive Samantha. Samantha, female, 28, bachelor's degree, marketing, single, Boston. Motivations are Samantha plays mobile games to pass the time and compete against friends, but not necessarily at the same time. When passing short periods of time, such as waiting in line, Samantha plays games where she competes against herself. In these scenarios, she opts for low time commitment games where she uses strategy to advance. When passing longer periods of time, such as work commute, Samantha plays games where she competes against friends. Samantha's favorite game is Bejeweled. Samantha enjoys the feeling of winning against her real world friends and goes to great lengths to maintain her dominance, including frequently purchasing coins. The only other in app purchases Samantha makes are to unlock levels when she's playing good single player games like SpongeBob's Dinner Rush. Samantha primarily downloads games that are recommended or currently played by friends. Criteria are free to download and play, ability to compete against friends, strategic thinking needed but not a time sink, so easy to play, advance, and pick up back again. Frustration with games is cost to download, too hard to advance, and when friends become unresponsive. In Samantha's words, I get so competitive when I play Bejeweled against my friends at work. I spend way too much money just so I can win. Of course, I don't tell my friends that I spend anything. I like them thinking I'm naturally gifted. SpongeBob's Dinner Rush is super addictive. When I have a few minutes to kill, like waiting in line for coffee in the morning, I try to beat a couple of levels. Now this is a bio profile, bio persona for a gaming company called Indie Game Girl. That's why it's so detailed about her game playing habits. Can you see? This gives you a very, very clear picture of this kind of audience. Way more than just age and location and gender. You can really, really focus your communication and not just what to say. You can even think of when to communicate with her, right? Remember the automation that we talked about last week? Especially that video, the giraffe business. Now, this gives us such a clear picture. You know exactly what you can map out what are the points at which Samantha is likely to be receptive to communication. What are some triggers that you can create automation for, right? This is another buyer persona. So I'm just giving you different kinds of examples of buyer personae. so that you have a wide range of experiences on this. This one is called technical decision maker, the transformational leader. CIO, technical decision maker, develops IT strategy and roadmap, leads technology team that evaluates tech options. I won't read out the whole thing. This is there in your notes also, by the way. Values are leadership, knowledge and expertise, innovation, expectations. Internal influences are board of directors, CEO, CFO. Motivators are bonus structure, ego, industry recognition. Information sources are all of these. The reason I'm showing you these are for you to be thinking about this level of information about your customers. You're going to have to create these buyer persona. You have to create multiple buyer persona by segmenting your audiences. And the only way you can segment and create buyer persona is if you have this level of understanding about your different customers and audiences, right? This is how eBay does its buyer persona. In addition to your demographic information and what interpreted information, they also look at behavioral information points such as last purchase, keyword based personas, that is, people who search for children's toys and baby products, category clusters, that is, people who frequently buy from certain industries, the last spot category, the last purchase. All of these can become filters for buyer persona. Last week, I showed you also, while during the MailChimp demo, I showed you how to segment your emails as well. Remember that? In the first step, in a regular email, in any email that you send out using MailChimp, the first step is selecting your recipients, right? You don't have to select the entire database. You can select to send just to people who have answered a particular question, people who have relationship status single, people who are in certain metros, people who have selected certain hobbies. Remember that? Is it all coming together now? How buyer persona can help you with that? So, making sure that your customers have very personalized communication does not have to be difficult. It demands that you understand your customer better. You have the tools that make it very easy for you. You can personalize your communication, you can segment within MailChimp, and now you have buyer persona, which helps you understand what you need to do with each of these segments better. I'm going to take a minute and ask you to leave feedback and then come back. I'm going to show you how automation ties into this. Okay? One more buyer persona and how automation ties in. Take a minute, leave feedback, and come back and tell me when you're done. Thank you. Let's just wait till everyone finishes. Okay, guys, remember it goes both ways. If you don't leave feedback, I'm not going to engage with you. Okay? Shall I go ahead? All right. Okay. So here's one last buyer persona I want to show you, and this is Sample Sally. It says head of human resources, worked at the same company for 10 years, worked her way up from HR associate, married with two children, 10 and 8, skews female, age 30 to 45. Now, this is where you remember that this is not one person but representing an entire segment. So, skews female means mostly female, usually female. Age is in this bracket, dual household income, suburban. Identifiers are calm demeanor, probably has an assistant screening calls, asks to receive collateral mailed and printed. What is the journey that I can plan for this segment? Here's how I could draw up a plan for this. Okay. My first thing to do is to opt this segment in, make sure to get their permission so I can start the entire process of communication with them. How can I interest and opt in this person? This is someone who works as the head of human resources, which means that it's likely they're going to be very interested in anything to do with their job that can make their job better. So I'm going to maybe show ads or maybe talk about it on social media that there's this case study for HR professionals on the latest technique in managing people's employee expectations, for example. Okay. And if you want to download this case study, sign up here or share your email address and we'll send you a link where you can download it. Anyone who signs up here, I now get their email address and their permission to mail them. So I send them this case study. From there, since I have their permission, the next week I send them an email saying that we've written a blog and this was authored by the CEO whom we interviewed in this case study. So we have a guest blog post by the CEO in that case study that you read about last week. That's to engage them further. When they click on that, it takes them to the blog, which also contains a reminder saying that if you would like to receive more such notifications, subscribe to our newsletter. Can you see automation trigger over here? In addition to that, over time, if the person has not visited the blog, or maybe they visited the blog and left a comment, I can leave another trigger there saying that here's a white paper based on the principles that this guest author spoke about. You can download this white paper over here, which brings them back again to my site or gets them to engage again with the brand. Maybe 2 months later, I can share a audio podcast saying that if you anyone who visited or subscribed to my newsletter, maybe a month later saying, here's an audio podcast that might interest you. This is a discussion between the two leaders who contributed that news article in the newsletter last week. Make sense? So see how I've taken it from the segment, understanding the segment, and put in specific automation triggers in place. So each person in this segment is going to get different pieces of information and content based on their journey through my content. So I've started off by separating my audience into some broad categories. I've further made it more detailed using buyer persona. And within those segments represented by those buyer persona, I've given them individual action triggers, automation triggers, which will allow the customer to form his or her own journey through my communication. Clear? Are we all clear on this? Okay, that brings us to the end of today's session. We can take questions now. I know Izahar had a question. If anybody else has questions also, please type them